Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. We are doing the annual and always very highly anticipated and requested bookshelf tour. This is my third one I think I've done. And I was like looking at the one from last year and oh boy, they've multiplied. You know how I was like, yeah, I'm gonna know by now. Yeah, how long do you think that lasted? So we are having a look at my updated bookshelf tour. As you can see, this is kind of expanded this way. This is expanded this way, and it's expanded considerably that way. There are a couple more shelves above me that you can't see, which I will show you in a bit. Yeah, it got out of hand quite quickly, but like with books, when does it not? I've consoled myself a little bit by watching other people's bookshelf tour videos and going, you know what? My problem isn't as bad as their problem. Still quite bad. Hello, my name is Emma. I'm a Complet grad film student and that is absolutely reflected in this shelf. A lot of you guys have come to me for like classics and stuff in the past, so hopefully I'm not going to disappoint. We'll see, jury's out on that one. So as I've said, I've done a couple of these. I'll run you through the basics as always, and then I'm going to try this time to focus on more of the new things that I'm acquiring. I've seen other people try and group their things by like theme and whatever, because I don't organise my books that way. As you can see, I organise them by edition. I will tell you the things that I generally prefer, the kind of stuff I usually buy from certain editions, but then I'll just talk you through the stuff that I've been acquiring more lately, especially because when I finished my Complet degree, the amount of freedom I suddenly got in terms of buying books has like been insane, and in the last year I've really been enjoying that and making the most of it. It's so nice when there's no longer a reading list. I mean, I'm still doing an MA, so there is technically a reading list, but they've given us like 5 books that are like, yeah, maybe read this one. 10 out of 10 would do a practical degree, practical MA, so you don't need to do reading. It's amazing. I've got friends doing law conversion courses and the sound of their reading lists kind of makes me want to vomit. That's why there's a couple more rogue things that you may not expect from me. Let's do this thing. So let's chat you through what is arguably the most important basics for my shelves. How I organise them. So I organise by edition, and then within editions I will do alphabetically author, and then within author I will do alphabetically works. I would do author date, but that requires way too much commitment and work, and I'm just like, it really doesn't make that much difference for me as a person. Because I am so visual, editions work for me. I can remember what the book looked like. I can find it much easier. That's why I quite enjoy when people do like rainbow organisation. If it was my bookshelf, I know where to find it. If it's someone else's bookshelf, I'd never be able to find anything. So it's really like up to how you want to sort things and how you will find things the like easiest, quickest, and also just so you know where your stuff is, you know? This is what works for me. I've had to rejig this shelf many times recently in order to get things to match and to be able to keep things together, and especially because it is, I would like to argue, an aesthetic shelf to make sure I don't like ruin the aestheticism and the flow of my editions. Very partial to Oxford World Classics. As a student, I think they are fantastic to study from. The paratext is excellent, gives you a decent amount of introduction, gives you a decent amount on the author, and gives you a lot of good further reading that you can like find on JSTOR in places. Recommend. Incredibly useful. Like, you really don't need to be searching through JSTOR for things because it gives you recommendations of things you should read at the back. It's great. Paratext is a beautiful thing. So we're gonna go through section by section. Of these ones, most of these pretty much all classics. They're 17th, 18th and 19th century. We have some Byron here, of course, absolute classic. Can you even do a literature degree and not have to do Byron? We love. Then, as you guys know, Daniel Defoe is an absolute babe. So all of my, you can see, it's quite obvious which one I've read the most. This is Roxana. If you didn't know, this is my favourite book. So he lives here with Descartes and Diderot, and I've got some Edgeworth. I read Castle Rackrent. Highly recommend. This is a very fun book of like Irish 18th century aristocracy and how they not swindle, but how they lose all their money. I have George Eliot, but I've never actually read any George Eliot. Henry Fielding, very fun. Ooh, Henry James, the American. I hated it. I think you guys know that. Then Charlotte Lennox. Not many people have talked about this book, or like, it's called The Female Quixote. Not Quixote, Quixote. It's meant to be pronounced like that, I promise. This is a really, really fun book, and she reads too much, and then like how it all goes to her head, and it's... I've probably showed this one before, but it's also one that I went to town on this edition. Loved it so much. Over here we have quite a lot of more French stuff. That is another thing that Oxford World Classics do well. They have books from everywhere. I mean, so do Penguin Classics, but I really quite rate a lot of the translations of these, especially the French. So we have some Moliere, we have Pascal, Pope. Pope I love, Pope is funny. He does his poetry in heroic couplets, and I love heroic couplets. I think that would be entertaining. For somebody who has this much Anne Radcliffe, I've never read any of it. My mum has read The Sicilian, which she said was like reading Scooby-Doo. So do with that gothic knowledge what you wish. Yes, this is French, this is English. Richard's Pamela, I've never read Pamela. It's such an important text for like the novel in 18th century England, but it's boring. It's so boring. La Rochefoucauld, it's basically, I made a joke to my mum being like, it's basically like tweets. So you have the English on one side and the French on the other side. I find it interesting. It is useful for a woman to be young but not beautiful, or beautiful but not young. Dude, why is that the first thing that I read? Fuck off. It's dated. And then, okay, Rousseau, we know. Bay of Bay, I love the Marquis de Sade. I love him. I find him so fascinating. Issues, obviously, but I find him so fascinating. I had to read Justine in 2 halves. Maybe don't pause it, but like, fascinating book. I read bits of Juliet as well, which is his longer work. It's fascinating, genuinely. Madame de Stael, love her. This is like Italian romantic stuff. And then Stendhal, right? Here's the thing. You love Red and the Black and you hate the Charterhouse of Parma, or you love the Charterhouse of Parma and you hate the Red and the Black. I've said this before, I love this book. I genuinely adore it. Genuinely adore it. And I absolutely detest the Red and the Black. I think Le Rouge et le Noir is shit. This is another book that's important for like 18th century. It's Stern, The Life and Opinions of Tristan Shandy. I read bits of it. It's kind of dull. I don't know, not for me. Vindication for the Rights of Women, of course. Classic. She refers to men as tyrants a lot, which I'm not going to lie to you is kind of funny. And then Wollstonecraft has some fiction, which basically is like, it's considered by some people like, a sequel to The Rights of Women, but almost like it's for fiction enacting all of the stuff she talks about in here. And then we'll go on to this bit. This is a little bit more, I think this is a little bit more interesting because it's in line with what I've started reading a lot more of now. So this was pretty much most of my degree. Then I'm getting more into Penguin Modern Classics. With ending my degree, my horizons have expanded. It's been wonderful. Camus was actually again for my degree. If you want to be depressed, read him. We know I have such a weird relationship with American literature. I have tried. I gave up. I've never actually read Lolita. I know what happens in it, obviously I've got it, but I've never read it. Orwell's essay are worth reading. I'd say maybe just buy this edition, so that you have all of them, but I don't know. I think he's interesting if you're doing English literature. I haven't read all of them. Sally I read again for a module. Oh, another feminist classic. Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. Hi, key recommend. It's an essay I actually can't recommend enough. Now, I've started reading a lot more modern classics. As you'll see, I have a lot of the short essays that they do. Achebe, Things Fall Apart. I have not started reading it yet. It's one of the things that was recommended to us so many times in our degree, and I'm just so excited to read it now. Like, it's time, you know? It's time. Kind of in the same vein as Murakami, like, I don't know why they didn't teach it to us. They talked about it, but they didn't teach it to us. I really don't understand why. I really don't get why. And Audre Lorde is somebody I found through the more recent wave of Black Lives Matter protests. Like, loads of those reading lists were so interesting. And she's a poet, and like, I've read some of it. I haven't gone through it the entire way, but like, my god, she's incredible. I've read a couple of her like essays, which I will show you in a second, but Audre Lorde, her poetry, so good. So good. Can't recommend it enough. And we know I love Uprising Revisited, come on. We know how much I love this book. And Sebastian deserved so much better. Oh my god. Anyway, moving on. otherwise this video is going to be an hour long, but that's probably what you guys want. And then, as ever, we know that I know I'm quite partial to philosophy. Great Ideas by Penguin, fantastic. Let's start down here and pan up Merit Beard, Women in Power, excellent essays, highly recommend. We have Descartes, we have Chen Tzu, we have Immanuel Kant, John Locke, Michel de Montaigne, Tolstoy, Pascal Voltaire, Plato, Sun Tzu, more Montaigne. I will explain why you don't need to buy two of Montaigne's things in a second. Machiavelli, The Prince, everyone needs to read this. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, I read half of it, but they are kind of interesting. Seneca on the Shortness of Life, highly recommend. Fucking love Seneca, I fucking love the Stoics. This I bought for a module. Yes, it's French, so it's upside down. Folio. What the fuck, dudes? Mrs. Dora Bruder. It's the guy who investigates the disappearance of a Jewish girl during the Second World War and like tries to imagine what happened to her. Don't know. Madame de Lafayette. God, let me go upside down for this. Histoire de la princesse de Montpensier? Anyway, I want to read this. It is in French, so I need to not be a baby and try and read it better. Austen, Marriage. You guys know I don't like Jane Austen. I don't know why I bought this. I bought it for my dissertation because I was like, maybe this will be interesting. If you guys want to know, I wrote my dissertation on women in power. A lot of it's to do with marriage. It's on my website if you want to read it. Again, and I also wrote on Sade for my dissertation. My dissertation books were Sade's Juliet and Defoe's Roxana. They're amazing books. I highly recommend. So I bought stuff on Sade. I've been buying more Adichie. So this is Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. I flicked through it. I haven't sat down and read it properly yet. But I have, right above it, got her TED Talk, We Should All Be Feminists. I will link that down below. It's great. And these are the things that I've enjoyed the most recently that I've bought. These really short Penguin Modern Classics are amazing. They're essays, and it's by a lot of like really famous people, so there's really good shit in here. Yeah, the Orwell essays, I've got all of them. They're all in the other book that I showed you. The Albert Camus, again, I have Camus, but like, God, he's such a miserable sod, isn't he? This is the Audre Lorde that I read for the first time, and that's why I bought the rest of her stuff, because these essays, I can't recommend these enough. The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. You see, she talks about race, she talks about feminism. Oh my god, she's fucking fantastic. And she writes so incredibly. Like, I genuinely can't get enough of her. Like, she's fantastic. So intelligent. I just cannot recommend her enough. Beckett, I spoke about this in a video. Yikes, did I speak about this in my lockdown video? I think I did. Highly recommend this if you want to know more. I've always loved Beckett. I just enjoy that kind of absurdist worldview. It makes a lot more sense to me. Like, if everything's so shit and depressing, you may as well laugh about it, right? Achebe, Africa's Tarnished Name. Haven't read this, but I bought it, again, in conjunction with Things Fall Apart. I bought more Sontag because we know I love her. This is her notes on camp. That's what the Met Gala exhibition was based on a couple of years ago, so I was like, I'ma read this. And then Andy Warhol Fame. He has an exhibition, had an exhibition on recently at the Tate. I didn't go because of coronavirus, which really sucked, but he's the one who does all the like pop art and stuff, so. And I mean, doing what I do, it's kind of hard not to have an interest in Fame, even if more it's just a lateral interest, but like, I'm gonna read that. I'm quite excited to read that. And I like these guys because you can get through so many different people, but like you get to like sample lots of different people, and then if you really like someone, you can like go for it. The Dyslexic in Me really recommends these to people. All of these shorter editions, I really recommend them because you can just get so much more of like a sense of someone. And then if you want to pursue, I guess basically if you want to pursue them as an author, it's like, you know, when you go to a bakery and they're like, oh, here's a biscuit sample, and you're like, oh, I like this biscuit, I will buy more. It's basically like that, because I don't want to commit to something that's long and it turned out to be shit and then I've wasted my money and my time. That horrifies me. So I've been buying a lot more of these because sampling, it's great and it makes me feel productive. Win-win. These are my Penguin vintage. These are more 20th century stuff, less to study, more to enjoy. I really love these, very partial. I've also been buying a lot more vintage because, again, I buy Oxford Classics and Penguin Classics because I study them. When you're not studying anything, the free range is amazing. So, couple classics. Chunky classics is with Cervantes, Don Quixote. I've read like 20 pages of it. I tried! Not very hard, but I tried. I'll read it eventually. Is what I'm going to say with so many of these books. War and Peace. I love Tolstoy. I do love him a lot. As you can see by the spine, I've read half of it. I got to page 600. It's 1,200 pages. It's one of my like resolutions for the next decade is I will read it eventually. Just I need to forget like enough of these like 600 pages to make it worth reading again. But then of course I bought more Tolstoy. I don't know why I bought this. I feel like maybe I should have just bought Anna Karenina because quite a few of my friends have read it and they said it was really good. So I went through a phase when I was like 16, 17 where I read so much Russian literature, so I really dig it. I'm kind of really disappointed though with my degree, the fact that we didn't do that much Russian stuff, which I really don't understand why we didn't. Complet's major flaw is that like, okay, it's a, well, first of all, it's an American degree that's been imported, but now they'd make it so Eurocentric, and even if you look so far afield, still through like post-colonial, colonialist lens, whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get that far into Russia, because Russia is still obviously very European at this point. You know, like 19th century, like 18th, 19th century. They spoke French for fuck's sakes until Napoleon was like, what up? This is one of my favourite plays of all time, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. It is a fantastic film that's been adapted with, oh my god, what's her fucking name? Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I can't recommend it enough. I love this a lot. Edward Albee, fantastic. Bay, Calvino. We know how much I love this. I love this so much, I can't recommend it enough. If you are a bibliophile, this book is for you, if on a winter's night traveller. Excellent. Have I written this? Yeah, I didn't write that much in these because I'm kind of enjoying them and I don't feel the need to annotate. Still annotate everything. I just do, but I can recommend. Angela Carter, I flip-flop about her. Sometimes I like her, sometimes I don't. Umberto Eco, In the Name of the Rose. My mum says this is really good, which is why she bought it for me. Junkie, apparently you need to get through the first like 100 pages and then it gets like super good. So that's the same with the Tolstoy, by the way, War and Peace. You need to get through the first 40 pages and then you'll be worthy of reading it. So I'm looking forward to reading this. The question is, when this is one of those that you take on holiday with you and this is then the only thing you decide to read. Yeah. Yes, more Russian. Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. One day. I like this Dostoevsky. This is Notes from Underground. I really don't remember what happens in it, but I know that I read it and I enjoyed it. Graham Greene, Burnout Case. I bought this because it's set in the Congo, is it? Yeah, it is. That's the only reason I bought it. I haven't read it. We'll see. Brothers Grimm, Complete Fairy Tales. I feel like I just have this as like a reference thing, almost. I will read the entire thing one day. Maybe when I have kids. I don't know. But I guess these are like the originals, so like the gory ones. Before Disney did. Ah, Lampedusa. I love The Leopard. I love it so much, you guys. I feel really bad for everyone who had to study it. Everyone on my course who was Italian was like annoyed that we had to do this, but I loved it because I was never forced to study it. I got to enjoy it. So if you haven't been forced to study it, read it because it's great. Or watch the film. The film's also really good. Ooh, that has drawings in it. Where's it? Oh. Ooh. I think I was bored. Yeah. Oh, it's another one. Yeah, sometimes I just kind of go for it. Anyway. This is my favourite section of my vintage classics because 1, 2, 3, 4. I read all of Mitford's historical biographies and I loved every single second of it and it was great. My favourite one is Madame de Pompadour. Absolutely my favourite one. I love it so much. The last one I read was Frederick the Great. She's got one on Voltaire, one on Louis XIV, but Madame de Pompadour I love it so much. I want to make it into a film. Oh my god. It was great. And she writes, it's like it's gossip and you should definitely take it with a grain of salt, but like if you want to know more but you don't want like a stuffy military history that's really fucking, basically if you want a history and you don't want it to be boring, read that. It's kind of fiction, take it with a grain of salt, but it was really good nonetheless. Moving slightly on. The Rushdie I got for a class, never read it. The Dalloway I nicked off my mother, and Yeats, A Good School. I think I read this because I wanted some like boarding school nostalgia. I got my boarding school nostalgia, and there's just moments in it as well that are kind of devastating. Yeah, there's a moment somebody tries to take their own life and they just can't, and that's one of the ones that, God, that really stuck out to me. Should I trigger warning that? Sorry. This was the boarding school nostalgia I wanted. I was still fighting with it over little details. It's American. I do recommend. This is one of the first things of American literature that I did really enjoy. I read this at the beginning of the year. And now we'll talk onto my new love affair. I love Murakami. I love him so much. The first thing I read was Norwegian Wood. I read this so quickly. I read this in a couple days. Like, that is, especially if this is 400 pages, that is unheard of for me. Have I mentioned yet? I'm dyslexic. So for me to get through this in I think it was about 4 days. I rate this so highly. It's about like Tokyo in the 1960s. Someone's like reliving their student days and through like the loves they had, and like it's how they deal with like death and people's suicides and stuff. And it thanks hard because like, what is he? He's like, is his name Toru? He's like 18 in this. Yeah, Toru Watanabe. Like you don't know how to deal with death at like this age. Like when you're still a teenager, you've only just started uni. Very few people have lost that many people, so it's just one of those things that you don't know how to deal with yet. And it's devastating, and like Japan already has such a bad suicide problem, so it's great. Also, the descriptions of food are really, really, really intoxicating and kind of annoyingly delicious. So it would be like a really devastating bit, and then he'd talk about food, and then I'd get really hungry, and then like start googling the food and make myself even more hungry. Which maybe wasn't his intention, but ugh, such a good book. It's not magical realism in the way that some of his other ones are. Like, I know Kafka on the Shore has a magical cat. This is great. It's so, I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. And if you like running, Murakami, what I talk about when I talk about running, it's incredible. Have I mentioned that I run? Have I? So this for me spoke to me on like a level of loving his fiction, and also like understanding like when he talks about running. This was so up my street. It's part travel log, part, you know, running log, let's say. But every time I read it, it made me want to go out and go for a run, and it was so great, and it made me so happy. And I just love running, and I love when people talk about running. So if you run, I can't recommend this enough. If you have any interest in running, read Murakami. You are reading the best on something that is like fan-fucking-tastic. So just read it, it's so good. If you don't care about running, maybe not for you, but if you do, don't you dare not read this. Also by Penguin is just my classics. A lot of this is new, this is a lot of all over the place if I'm honest. A lot of it's neoclassical, a lot of it's classic, and a lot of it's all over the place. I can't explain this. I'm gonna skim through my Penguin classics, okay guys, because I haven't bought a new one in a very long time. A lot of this is classics. This is classical literary criticism. If you're doing comparative literature or something on classics, buy this. You need it. We've got some plays, we've got some Aristotle. This Nellie Bly, I think I rescued from home. John Cleland, I can't wait to read this. It's called Fanny Hill. Come on, this is just me on my Sarge shit, isn't it? Like, I'll read that eventually. Yes, there's porn in it. Mrs. Corneille, a few of his plays. Ian Foster, Where Angels Fear to Tread, stole that off my mum. Goethe, if you're doing comparative literature, read him. If you like the Romantics with capital R, read him. The Iliad, obviously. Where the fuck is my copy of the Odyssey? Where the fuck is my copy of the Odyssey? I have a copy of the Odyssey, which is now gone missing. That's kind of ironic. Henry James, again, I don't think I like Henry James. Ugh. Laclos. Les Liaisons Dangereux. Amazing, I love it. Dangerous Liaisons, can't rate it highly enough. Leopardi, he's great. Maupassant, I'm forced to read it. It's alright. Bay of Bay, and I will talk about this for a bit longer. Michel de Montaigne. He basically invented the essay. He's amazing, and he's so smart, and he's so intelligent, and that is why I have a couple of his like shorter ones before I realised how much I loved him and how much I'm just gonna keep reading his stuff. This, you buy it, and you'll probably never finish it, but he's like written something on like everything, and it's like the nicest, I just love how he thinks, and I vibe with it a lot, so I really recommend you just go for it and buy the complete thing of his essays. My mother bought it for me as, I think it was a Christmas present. Love it. Such a great present. I really love it. Amazing. Then we have Ovid, Metamorphosis or Metamorphosis. I didn't fuck up this copy. I haven't even opened this copy. I've not even read anything of it, ever. But I think one of my siblings took it. My brother took it. It's annoying. Anyway, I never even got to read it. Thomas de Quincey, that's fine. Madame de Sévigné was a gift. She's in the court of Louis XIV, so she knows the goss, so she writes letters to her daughter with the fucking court tea. It's all you really want, isn't it? The court tea. So my mother bought that as a present. I will read it. I'm quite excited to read it. I should know when. King Lear, because, I mean, he wrote it during the plague, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna read it during the plague. I haven't yet, but the plague isn't over, so that's fine. Lawrence Stern, A Sentimental Journey. Swift, Gulliver's Travel, classic, never read it. Virgil, Aeneid. Again, you haven't even read this copy. It's mine. I haven't even read it because my siblings have fucking stole it. Voltaire, Candide Optimism. Great. Read it. It's funny. I love it. Voltaire, Letters on England. As somebody who's not English living in this country, these are entertaining as well. Observing the English is an entire genre in and of itself, isn't it? Voltaire, Treatise on Toleration. Never read it. And then Wilde, Picture of Dorian Gray. I love this. I loved it so much. I really have a massive soft spot for Oscar Wilde. He's great. He's fantastic. I was made to read that at school, but I still really liked it. And over here, we're just gonna... I haven't read these ones yet, but I really love the Avatar comics. They continue as a comic. Did you guys know that? They're really good, and I love them. They're fantastic, and it just continues. The show's comics, and it's all canon, and it's fucking great. A little bit rogue for me, but yeah, it's fucking fantastic. Okay, we're going up. I organise all of these ones because we don't have a predominant edition. I organise them by height and then I organise them by colour because it's just an easy way for me to find stuff. I've been tempted to do it by author, but it doesn't work for me. Over here, this is my Mises. I got this for school. A lot of these I think I bought for class as well. This Into the Quick of Life, that was something I bought for a Rwanda module. Book of IQ tests, we have it. This was a gift, it was sellout by Paul Betty. I think meant to be really good. Haven't made a crack at it just yet. Okay, this I used a lot in my dissertation. This was Stephanie Kuntz, Marriage History, How Love Conquered Marriage. She basically talks about it as an institution and how how it's changed dramatically in the last 150 years and how it's historically been used and stuff, and especially how that changes depending on people's classes and stuff. So it's very interesting, I think, as far as marriage goes, because it's so much more to it than shitty rom-coms would have you believe. And I feel like if you get a better understanding of what a marriage traditionally has always been, I feel like maybe we would look for different things in partners, because I'm of a belief that something that makes somebody boyfriend or girlfriend material does not necessarily make them husband-wife material, I feel like it's different things. Tartuffe, because we studied it. I'm all on Voltaire. Molière. Orphan of Asia, that was, oh god, we had this module about nations and nation building, but we really didn't get, it got cut off because of all the strikes a couple of years back, so we really didn't get to do much of that. Ways of Dying is again for a module. Truby, Anatomy of Story. This is one I bought in Harvard for one of the writing classes that I took. It's been recommended quite a few times, so especially for writing for the screen and stuff, as you can see. It's meant to be really good. I've dipped in and out of it, but I've never read that much of it. I have a different business review because, why not? These are a couple, Caribbean plays. Pushkin, again, is Mauritius of Sade. This is my French copy of Juliet. So this has pictures in it. It's got pornography in it. Lol. It has pictures to explain the orgies. We love to see it. Monkey Beach was again for a module. I spoke about this a little bit. If you guys are dyslexic and want stuff that's written about dyslexia that's more about the emotional toll that it can take on you, I highly recommend Philip Schultz, My Dyslexia. He learns later in life that he's dyslexic and sort of reflects on his education and upbringing through the lens of realising that, he was dyslexic this entire time. Veronique Dadjo, she Shadow Vimana, it's about, again, the Rwandan genocide, and she goes to, like, investigate and, like, gather people's stories. It's, again, that kind of, what's it called? Is it affiliative testimony or, like, secondary testimony? It's someone who has nothing, who's no familial association, who goes to find out what happened. It was interesting. It was. Another thing I bought for class, never read it. Talk Like Ted, Dad bought me that. Yes, might read it. Man, Deaf in Venice, I will read it. I've read a couple other things in here, I will eventually read it. Devil Wears Prada, I feel like I should read it for the sake of it, almost, because I love the film so dearly. I rescued it from home because it was on my bookshelf there, and I knew I was never going to read it otherwise. Some people have said it's kind of meh, but then again, I've also been reading fan fiction lately, so like maybe my tolerance for bad writing has like increased, so maybe I should just read it. Moving on. So, Girl, Woman, Other. That came out fairly recently, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Did it come out 2018 or maybe 2019? So I was on a bunch of reading lists with like Black Lives Matter, but I've been seeing it around anyway, so I was like, well, why not? I haven't read it yet. It's one of the ones I do, hopefully do want to read this year. It's about Girl, Woman, Other follows 12 very different characters on an intertwined journey of discovery. It is future, it is past, it's fiction, it is history. Yeah, I'm quite excited with that. So you think you're clever? Because apparently this is just a collection of like some classic Oxford and Cambridge questions they get asked. One of my favourites to tell people is the one of like, if you got shrunk down and put inside a blender, what would you do? Everyone's always like, what the fuck? This is Dale Carnegie. This is a classic one. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Any kind of this like business genre of like, I actually really enjoy these. Defo a step away from like all of the classics and stuff, but like I find anything like this, it's a lot of like business people who read them because it's like, oh, how do you, manipulate people and how do you like control whatever. I find it fascinating. It's honestly like, for some like psychological tricks, but like, you see them in those videos. Loads of them have charisma on command. Their channel have quite a few of them, but I have tried some of them in the past and they do work. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you get something to work and you're like, oh, it's kind of but it's interesting. It's super interesting. Look at Immigrant. This is a collection of essays from different people from different backgrounds who've all come to the UK. So as an immigrant myself, my mum and I were really like, we really wanted to read this. It is meant to be really good, and I've heard it mentioned even a long time before, again, like the most recent Black Lives Matter. So I've heard it, this has been on my radar for a while. So now I was like, well, why the fuck not? Never split the difference. This book is on negotiating, as if your life depended on it. This guy is like a former FBI negotiator, so I really, as a woman, I feel like I need to be better at negotiating, especially for, well, mainly for salary and just like as a life skill. I think you may as well be able to do it. I don't think it's gonna hurt. So I'm just quite curious to read this. What a shock. Emma has collected works of Beckett. Wow. John Osborne, never really read his. Oh, I spoke about this at length. I read Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun. This is set during the Nigerian Biafran Civil War, and it's, oh god, it is utterly devastating. I cried a lot when I finished reading it. It's very, very good. I recommend it enormously. American Marriage, I've also spoken about that at length. I think it was good, but it was good, but meh. I don't think I'm going to recommend it to every single person alive. It was decent. Roy Porter, English Society in the 18th Century. Read this for my disso. I don't think any of you are going to have an interest in that. If you're studying the 18th century, do read it. It's fantastic. He has this really good book on the Enlightenment. But other than that, none of you are going to care. Joyce. I like James Joyce. I'll show you that I like James Joyce. But I bought second-hand Joyce because I wanted it. I haven't read it yet. It's like this is my copy of Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. It frustrates me to no end. That it's in a different edition to all of my others. I also don't like it anyway, so it can live up here in exile. Oh, this is Parfait. I haven't read it, but I've seen the film. The film is really good. Of course I have Milk and Honey. Of course I do, because I am a white girl. What did you expect? I do like fine line drawings. I am very, very partial. I did dog ear the ones that I liked the most. I really like fine line drawings. Woo. Is this overrated though? discuss. I really enjoyed it. Of course, this is my very, okay, actually, let's start with Man on Let's Go. I've seen it as a ballet. The ballet is really nice. But yeah, this is like 150 pages. If you've never read anything 18th century, this might be a good place to start. I really, really enjoyed it. It's very like, a lot of shit happens. A lot of shit goes down. And of course, my very, very used copy of Hamlet. I studied it for one of my A-levels. If you guys are new. Yep, went to town on that. Oh, and I read Orhan Pamuk, My Name is Red. I read that for, oh god, I read that for one of my first classes at Complet. It's interesting. It's set in Turkey. One of the longest things I've actually managed to read. I was very proud of myself. How long is it? Yeah, it's like 650 pages. Like, I'm still chuffed that I read this. This is for me just an accomplishment. It's a good book though. I do rate it quite highly. Any of it is interesting. So the other one that I recommend is for dyslexia is I can't get it out. The Dyslexic Advantage. It's more of a scientific explanation as to, you know, why dyslexics are different, what it is, etc, etc, etc. I've read bits of it and I really do enjoy it. And I think my language is a bit more accessible, which is very, very, I appreciate it enormously. Last few things, you guys know my love for Mitford. It's also translated into her fiction. I read The Pursuit of Love, read this really quickly, really enjoyed it, it was super fun. Also the editions are beautiful. Can I get them out? These editions are just stunning. All of hers exist in these editions, so I really, really want to buy the rest of them. Beautiful. Yeah, read this one. We'll read Love in a Cold Climate. Set in early 19th century England. And then I've got a couple Penguin English ones, Jane Austen Persuasion. Another thing that frustrates me to no end about Jane Austen is that they're all in different editions. I've read like half of this because I kept falling asleep while I was reading it. I have Frankenstein, never read it. Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness, have read it, do recommend it enormously. Island of Dr. Monroe, don't really know why I have it, not really that interested in it. I don't know, probably won't read it. Sontag is incredible. This was such a good essay regarding the pain of others. It's like how you photograph suffering and pain and violence and like morally the discussions around that and like should you, can you. It's really, really interesting, I highly recommend. Samuel Beckett, and then we have Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. This is James Joyce. The bit where it was like this massive Catholic digression, I read that at like 3 in the morning and I had a meltdown. I was like, I'm going to hell. So that was interesting. So yeah, let's move on up a bit more. Even between editions, I will have like different ways of organising stuff. Whatever means that I can find it the fastest. And all the way up there is my pile of DVDs. It's just a random pile of DVDs, to be quite honest. And then some more rogue things that don't, size-wise, they just don't fit lower down on these shelves, and also they're a little bit, again, more rogue in terms of editions. So they're not really things I necessarily need to reference or reach for very much, so they can go up there. It's not the end of the world. My tripod does not go this high, ignore me. But 642 Things to Write About was a gift from ages ago. It's quite a fun one for when I was younger. Wild About the Girl, Louise Pentland YouTube book. It's alright. It's a woman, I just put that in secondhand bookshop. Shannon Rose is a YouTuber. Her second book is really juicy, really entertaining. And then I've got a couple of things that I had for class. Will Derbyshires This Modern Love, which is quite nice actually. And then I just have a bunch of films. Not that interesting, apart from my love for Dangerous Liaisons with John Malkovich in it. A couple of Sofia Coppola's films, Romeo plus Juliet, incredible film, and then a couple of Scorsese's. Wow, there you go guys. I do believe that's pretty much everything. These aren't all my books though. Of course they're not, of course they're fucking not. You can watch my tour from a couple of years ago to see my shelf in my bedroom at my parents' house. But I also have a little nook in my room here where I just enjoy these editions. They just don't fit with other things, so I like to keep them here. There's not that much reason as to why they're here and not on my shelf other than they've just been here for a long time. So these are a lot of my books that I feel like don't really have anywhere to go. Maybe I'll move them. But there you go. That's those couple of film books. And then that. This is a massive book. Yeah, don't ask me why I have this. I found it in a secondhand shop and I could not. Wildly interesting and fascinating, but if I show you any of it, I am going to get demonetized, so that's that. But of course, that's again not all of my books. If you want to know and have a clue of what I'm reading at the moment and what my brain is going between, it's the pile of books on my bedside table. And this motherfucker always grows as I read things. They do make their way back onto the shelf for like, I want to say archiving, but it's not, it's just, yeah, a library. I pretty much always have a pile on my bedside table, like things will swap in and out, but there's usually books here. This is particularly excessive at the moment though. Usually it's only a couple, but there's a lot of things I've like half read and I'm dipping in and out of. And I'd say pretty much all of these are non-fiction. How many are fiction? 2 of them are fiction, 1 is poetry. 1, 2, 3. 3 of these for school, 1 of these is dyslexia. The management one I've started reading, haven't started reading the dyslexia one. That I'm reading for my book club with my friends. Oh yeah, and this is for school as well. Secret Lives of Colours. This is about like the brain and like, you know, how you see things and how that influences how you think and stuff. Oh, Ishiguro as well, because I finished reading Murakami, so I was like, I'm gonna read some more Ishiguro because like I know so many of you rate Remains of the Day. I personally don't, but that's because I was made to study it. So I'm gonna try this and see if I like this. So yeah. I haven't started reading this yet, but I will. This is interesting, but it's boring. This is poetry. This is really interesting for an editor in the blink of an eye or to merch. It's so interesting. I don't know how much I'm learning to an extent because like obviously I've been editing for almost 8 years. So a lot of what he talks about and like when he says about things being like, you just know when it's wrong and a lot of things being reflexive and stuff, like I get that, but I don't know how much new I'm learning, which is a shame, but I've not read that much of it yet. As you can see. Yeah, interesting. And I've read a couple of pages of this management one and I'm finding it interesting as well because I was producer this term and honestly it's kind of like herding cats. So I just want to know what like the theory side of it is, especially because management is something that's completely practical. I like these short introductions. They're just great. They're super great. But yeah, this is my pile of what I have going on at the moment. Usually there is a trend in thematically what I'm vibing at the moment. This stash is pretty much my Goodreads. Can you believe I made it into a video this far without mentioning my Goodreads? It's Angeline. And it's linked in the description. But yeah, this is usually like the physical version of what my Goodreads looks like. And that's it. That's pretty much all the books I have at the moment. Yeah, she multiplied. Can't wait to see how bad it is next year and the year after that. And I might be bugging my mother for a new bookshelf sometime soon. Amazing. Like I did last year, I put a post up on my blog where I just have photographs of all of my shelves so that you can, you know, browse, peruse at your leisure to see every single thing that I have. Maybe I'll count everything, but I never have, and part of me doesn't want to because there's quite a bit of stuff here. But as a dyslexic, it does make me incredibly proud to be like, I've read most of these books. all of them. That's ambitious. Most of them. Yeah, I have. And again, I need to stick to my no pipe because it gets out of hand so quickly, but I consider them morally sound objects, so it's quite easy to like go overboard. And there we have it. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions, like, subscribe and all my jazz, and I will see you guys very, very soon. But I just need to explain shit and then get B-roll. I think I need to explain shit and get B-roll.